Hi, everyone. I'd like to talk about academic death. This is something that used to happen in Russia, probably still does, and it happens in the UK. I believe probably other places as well. It basically means that if you get something stolen or you piss off a lecture or something like this, and a lot of places that you can get what they call academic death. In Russia, it was that you'd never pass another degree, of course. You'd never pass another degree if you pissed them off. Now, you may say, what has this to do with me? Now, I'll state my brother is an academic. He's never done this. He's never told me anything about it. I don't believe it happens in the university that he works in, but it does happen. And the reason I know it happens is because many years ago, I got there was a paper was written, at least a paper, on all the information that I gave when I was talking in a museum, and someone wrote a paper called Penny that was basically all of that information. It could have even been the foundation for a doctorate, but it was certainly a paper. And you can get doctorates based on published work, not just one doctorate, one paper. Now, that would discredit this person, which means it's very unlikely I'll ever be allowed to pass anything, Indeed, when I studied at the Open University, I found there was odd friction. Like when I did a residential school, I was followed around before the residential school and in the residential school, and cars pulling up and saying strange things and pulling away. Very strange. The reason for this was because of the academic death. They did not want me to get my degree, which I did, but I believe that it's highly unlikely in the current climate that I'd be allowed to get anything if I wanted to. Don't get me wrong, I do have a degree. I've got honorary doctorates which I received, but just honorary ones. But it does happen, and that's the bottom line, There's also, I remember a long time ago, I was told that someone got a doctorate based on analysis of my books. So how the hell is that a doctorate? How the hell is getting with my books a doctorate based on my books? How is that a doctorate? Surely that means I should get the doctorate, but I didn't. Why didn't I get it? Because of the academic death. It's not acceptable for me to get any more degrees because of it. And I wanted to share this with people so people can see how corrupt the system has gotten. It's not any better in this country than anywhere else. It's a very corrupt system. And certainly the elite universities, I think they do it all the time with students they don't like, So if they steal your idea, you're the one in trouble. So any of the universities where people have been done for stealing and plagiarism and things like this, which there is many, the people who plagiarize, who they stole from, are probably the ones that have suffered because of it. They probably haven't suffered. They've probably been covered up for a long time. So that happens in this country. The academic death is what it's called. And they basically make sure that you don't pass anything, but it's done quite strangely here because you do get followed around. Now, I've been followed around in occultists before, but this was before I was an occultist, before I was writing books. I wasn't writing any books then. I practiced occultism, but people didn't know it. I hadn't written. I think I'd written something. I'd written maybe a small amount, but nothing major. Hadn't written any large quantity of stuff. It was different. I don't think I'd written that. In fact, one minute. No, I hadn't written anything at all at that point. I hadn't written any occultism. It was way before this. So at this point in time, there's no reason to follow me around. And yet I was followed around, quite a lot. And we also found, because my father came to stay in the residential school, and we found like a memory stick in a plug socket, because I knew there's something wrong when they were doing it, and I thought there's something wrong here. And checked the plug socket, and we found a memory stick. Now, these memory sticks are used for listening devices. What they do is they make listening devices into memory sticks. What they do is they go into a room and they screw the socket off the wall and they bounce it on the wall and they pull it back on again. We found one of these and we put it down a drain. And that's an MI5 sort of MI6 trick. So you've got universities bringing in MI5 and MI6 to get information to use against students so that they don't get degrees. So the other people who have plagiarized from them aren't discredited in the careers. It's basically the posh people pulling on the elite, pulling on the MI5 contacts to protect themselves because they're corrupt and aren't really as clever as they're supposed to be, and they're simply stolen things from other people. And I wouldn't imagine it's a one-time thing. You don't steal one thing from somebody then become innocent and become an upstanding person. You're going to keep on doing it. You know what I mean? If you're dishonest, and you're a plagiarist, you keep plagiarizing. It's what they do. And that basically happens in this country, happened in Russia. It probably happens everywhere. And that is a very nasty part of the system. I'd like to think somebody could do something to stop it. I'm not sure they can, but it's there. It's out in the open now. You know about it. You know that it happens. And that they'll do everything they can to stop you from doing something if you're annoyed or if they steal from you. So I don't think that people won't steal from you, because they will. You know, anything linked with universities like museums and things, be careful what you say if you come up with a really good idea, because they'll nick it, put their name on it, put it out, and that's it. And the reason I know about it is because this one hit the newspapers. It was such a big deal, it went in the newspapers at the time. What it was an offhand comment I said, was that technically speaking, the first science was engineering. The first human engineering was older than science, because chimpanzees used tool making to make use rudimentary tools to make things. They could use rudimentary tools, which they do, which is engineering. And that appeared in the newspaper, got a lot of coverage for a paper, decent amount of coverage. And it was my idea. I came up with it in a museum, and it was stolen. And like I said, it was because of how widely published it was. Somebody probably got a doctorate partly on it, or on it completely. I would imagine I have to add more to it, but I could have added more to it, as well. And that's what happened. And it'll happen again. It will happen before. I was just sitting there, I thought now is probably the time to talk about it. But this isn't really about occultism, because this is beforehand. This is just general corruption. Don't think this doesn't cover you. See, I don't do occultism. I wasn't really writing anything at the time. I remember I wasn't writing anything. It was way before that when this happened. Way before that. I was completely different then. People didn't even think of me as an occultist at all. So there was no reason. A lot of years ago, and it still happened, So it can happen to you. So I'm using this as a platform so you know about what you want to do about it. I don't know. But I would suggest, if you come up with an idea, be careful what you say when you're walking around academic buildings or universities or things linked with universities like museums and art galleries, because they'll nick it. They'll steal your idea. They'll use it. They'll steal your idea. They will do it, especially the upper class academics, the posh. They're not necessarily there because they're clever. Some of them are there certainly because they plagiarize, and because they're allowed to be there because of the status. They're allowed to plagiarize and get away with it, There was a guy at Durham University called Professor Tony Antanu, who plagiarized his entire PhD thesis, cut and pasted his PhD thesis together, still gave him his doctorate, and lots of papers. He was just cutting and pasting and putting things in. They eventually sacked him many, many years later. They got rid of him, but not after a very long time of him being around. And that was reported in the newspapers. That's publicly available information, and they reported it, but they kept hold of it for a long time and suppressed it. And people were paying a lot of money for MBAs and things from Durham University. They were paying a lot of them, and not just people going there, but also from people who were linked with like distance learning as well, who were paying a lot of money for it. And because it was a top business school, and yet was it a top business school because the person who's their professor who's running the department was a plagiarist. I mean, this will happen. That will be lots of other universities. And the universities nearest to me. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Many other universities around. I'm not saying they're linked with this thing in any way, shape, or form. It's simply the fact that they're nearest to me. So I know about that. It was the local newspaper that paid in about this professor. But like I said, it happens, it happens all of the time. The academic death, it means that you may be better learning things from books, because books are available to you. You can buy a book, you can download a book, you can buy an ebook, and that's it. A book doesn't judge you. I, as an author, don't judge you. I don't stop you from getting something. I don't stop you from passing something or being good at something. I don't do that. That's not my job, and I won't do that. But At a university, it may be different. If they decide you're not part of the system, that you're not there, that you're in some way, someone steals from you, they may well decide to stop you from getting things and stop you from getting things from that point onwards. Because at the end of the day, is it really important that you have the degree? Some ways it is, but I would say it's more important that you have the knowledge. So gain the knowledge you can from it, but be aware that people will steal your ideas when you're walking around. They will steal your ideas. If you come up with a clever enough idea, they think they can just swipe, because they know how to write papers. You probably don't. I've written papers. You won't know how to write them. So they can take it, structure it correctly, and it'll zoom in, go in, get published, and they make a reputation based on your idea. So let's say it happens something like physics, because you've got to know physics. But in some other subjects, you don't really need, you just need knowledge here and there, and you can do it. It's the reason why people used to get away with plagiarism, because in certain subjects you seem to get away with it more. And there was no way of checking in the past about this sort of thing, because if you're walking through a building, the chances of them getting caught is very remote. So I'm pointing this out now so that you know the way it works, so that you're aware of how it works, and so you're aware that if they steal from you, they will stop you from advancing in your career if they can, academically speaking. So, they'll stop if they possibly can. They'll try to stop you if it's possible. So what you should do is try to not get things stolen, so they don't stop you from studying if you want to study. Because they steal from you, they will stop you studying so that they have no threat from you. That's the idea, that there's no threat from you. Because if they stop you from studying, and they can stop it, which they didn't with me, granted they tried, but they weren't able to, then that's the thing, they will do. But they're probably going to be subtle about it. They'll be as subtle as they possibly can be, so that no one gets blamed. These people don't want to take risks. They don't want to do that. They want other people to take the risks and to do things, but they don't want to take risks. They want to do it in a safe way, but they can still do it. And most of the time, they'll be successful. Okay? Just because I managed and things were fine does not mean it will be for you. Okay? It was probably good luck, and because of the situation, because I was in some ways well known in this place that it was stolen from, why was probably the reason why it was left, why there's nothing much happened, because of that. They only want to do so much, but they don't want to look, also as well, they don't want to make their students look too bad. If you're not a student and you think they'll make their students look bad, it could be down to that as well. They steal from you and they publish something and it's your idea. If they give you credit, will their students look daft for playing however much a year for a degree? You don't know. I go in a lot of museums and things like this over the years. I've been in loads of different museums. I'm probably well known in a lot of different museums, I would imagine. But that's the bottom line. Be careful. And that's it. It's called the academic death.